Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Crowdpurr Weekly Trivia Show. I am your host, Philip Trickey. I am coming to you live from the Crowdpurr headquarters in beautiful downtown Dayton, Ohio. As usual, we publish new trivia games every week. I take my favorite questions from those games and I bring you this podcast. I also want to remind you that Crowdpurr is the #1 platform for trivia hosting on the web. You can take any of these games and host them for your friends, your family, your audiences, your crowds, your dogs, your cats. I don't care who you host it for as long as they like to play trivia. This past weekend, I took my daughter to the Air Force Museum here in Dayton. It was really beautiful. They had a bunch of cockpits and simulators that you could sit in, and I was immediately transported to my childhood, and I felt like I was Maverick from Top Gun. And I was quite surprised that my 10-year-old did not get the references to a movie that came out when I was younger than she is now. But you know what? That's my failure as a parent, and I will try to get her up to speed. Right now, I think we're going to take a highway to the trivia zone, so let's play some trivia. This week, I've got some fun games, including documentary TV and films, a game about the days of the week, which is pop culture things that have the days of the week in the title or are involved with the days of the week somehow. Also a fun game featuring everybody's favorite celebrity chef, Guy Fieri. So here we go. Question 1, coming to you from documentary TV and films. Which of these feature films won the Best Documentary Oscar at the 2022 Academy Awards? Was it A, Riding with Fire, B, Summer of Soul, C, Ascension, or D, Attica? A, Riding with Fire, B, Summer of Soul, C, Ascension, or D, Attica? The answer is B, Summer of Soul. I kind of feel like after this year's Oscars, if you can remember the winners in any of the categories, you should just automatically win. I also made sure to go through the game this week and update it so that not all of the answers are C. So far, so good. Question 2, still from documentary TV and film. What innovative new wave band takes center stage in director Jonathan Demme's 1984 concert film, Stop Making Sense? Is it A, Devo, B, U2, C, REM, or D, Talking Heads? A, Devo, B, U2, C, REM, or D, Talking Heads? The answer is D, Talking Heads. I mean, if you haven't seen Stop Making Sense, that is going to not make sense to me because it's quite possibly the greatest concert film ever made. So I highly recommend everybody watch it. Question 3, coming to you from Days of the Week. These are all questions that have to do with days of the week but involve pop culture, films, televisions, books, all sorts of stuff. Question 3. Which of these bands did not have a hit song with Monday in the title? Was it A, New Order, B, Rolling Stones, C, Boomtown Rats, or D, The Carpenters? A, New Order, B, The Rolling Stones, C, The Boomtown Rats, or D, The Carpenters? The answer, they did not have a hit song with Monday in the title, was B, The Rolling Stones. New Order had Blue Monday, Boomtown Rats had I Don't Like Mondays, and D, The Carpenters had Rainy Days and Mondays. They always get me down. I don't know about you. Question 4. We've got this game this week is called Diners, Drive-Ins, and Guy. All about Guy Fieri. Question 4. What is the name of the grocery store where contestants shop for ingredients on cooking competition Guy's Grocery Games? Is it A, Guy Mart, B, Guy's Gonzo Grocery, C, Flavortown Market, or D, Fieri's Foods? A, Guy Mart, B, Guy's Gonzo Grocery, C. Flavortown Market, or D. Fieri's Foods? The answer, guys, grocery games, takes place at C. Flavortown Market. Cool little thing about Flavortown Market is all the food inside there is real, and after they film, they donate it to local food banks. The more I learn about Guy Fieri, the more I just really love that guy. Continuing on, question 5, still from Diners, Drive-Ins, and Guy. Over 100,000 people signed a 2020 Change.org petition to have the name of Guy Fieri's hometown of blank changed to Flavortown. Was it A, Louisville, Kentucky, B, Columbus, Ohio, C, Chicago, Illinois, or D, San Diego, California? A, Louisville, Kentucky, B, Columbus, Ohio, C, Chicago, Illinois, or D, San Diego, California? The answer is B, Columbus, Ohio. We love him here in Ohio. OH. There it is. Question number 6. We've May 11th, which is 2 days from now, is National Twilight Zone Day. So I've got a fun game this week featuring all of the different iterations of the Twilight Zone. Question 6. Which prolific science fiction author wrote the 1962 Twilight Zone episode, I Sing the Body Electric? Is it A, Philip K. Dick, B, Ray Bradbury, C, Harlan Ellison, or D, Richard Matheson? A, Philip K. Dick, B, Ray Bradbury, C, Harlan Ellison, or D, Richard Matheson? The answer to I Sing the Body Electric is B. Ray Bradbury wrote that episode. He repurposed his script for that episode for a short story that he wrote in 1969 with the same name. And I think that's a song from Hair? It's from some Broadway musical. Question 7, still from Twilight Zone. What handsome Hollywood heartthrob played Death in the 1962 episode Nothing in the Dark? Was it A, Robert Redford, B, Paul Newman, C, Marlon Brando, or D, Steve McQueen? A, Robert Redford, B, Paul Newman, C, Marlon Brando, or D, Steve McQueen? The answer, he played Death in the 1962 episode Nothing in the Dark, is A, Robert Redford. Bob Redford, as we like to call him sometimes. Question 8. NBA playoffs are happening right now, so we've got a fun game specifically featuring a team that did not make the playoffs this year, but we've got a game all about the Los Angeles Lakers this week. Question 8. Which LA Laker was traded to the Charlotte Hornets for Kobe Bryant in 1996? Was it A, Nick Van Exel, B, Vlade Divac, C, Anthony Miller, or D, Cedric Ceballos? A, Nick Van Exel, B, Vlade Divac, C, Anthony Miller, or D, Cedric Ceballos? This was a fun one because I'm sure, like me, most of you didn't even know that Kobe Bryant was drafted by a different team, but he was traded for B, Vlade Divac. It was immediately following the draft, so he didn't play a single second of basketball for Charlotte. Question 9, still from our LA Lakers game. What fashion designer famously dressed Lakers head coach Pat Riley, who even modeled the designer's suits in a runway show? Was it A, Giorgio Armani, B, Calvin Klein, C, Ralph Lauren, or D, Gianni Versace? A, Giorgio Armani, B, Calvin Klein, C, Ralph Lauren, or D, Gianni Versace? Pat Riley was known for his slicked back hair and A, his Giorgio Armani suits. He was quite a cool cat on the sidelines. Question 10, we've got, this is a fun new game this week. It's going to be, we're calling it Brain Busters. This is a general trivia game that all 15 of the questions in each game are going to be pretty hard. instead of escalating in difficulty. So this is from Brainbusters. Question 10. Who became the first person to win an Emmy, an Oscar, and a Tony Award in the same calendar year in 1973? Was it A, Marvin Hamlish, B, Bob Fosse, C, Glenda Jackson, or D, Patty Chayefsky? A, Marvin Hamlish, B, Bob Fosse, C, Glenda Jackson, or D, Patty Chayefsky? And the answer is, everybody do their jazz hands, it's B, Bob Fosse. The great director and choreographer, won an Emmy, an Oscar, and a Tony all in the same year. And not only was he the first person to do it, to date, he is the only person to do it. Question 11, still from Brainbusters. What was the most populous U.S. state when the first census was conducted in 1790? Was it A, Pennsylvania, B, New York, C, Virginia, or D, Massachusetts? A, Pennsylvania, B, New York, C, Virginia, or D, Massachusetts? The most populous state in 1790 was C, Virginia. There was about 750,000 people in Virginia in 1790, which was 75% higher than the next closest state of Pennsylvania. All right, today is and should be a national holiday. It is the piano man Billy Joel's birthday today. So we have brought you a fun game all about the legend of music, Mr. William Joel. Question 12. In what 1988 animated film does Billy Joel voice a canine character? Is it A, All Dogs Go to Heaven, B, Oliver and Company, C, The Secret Life of Pets, or D, Ozzie? A, All Dogs Go to Heaven, B, Oliver and Company, C, The Secret Life of Pets, or D, Ozzie? The answer is B, Oliver and Company, which is a canine update of Oliver Twist. Well, canines and cats. I think Oliver in that movie is a little kitten. It's been a while since I've seen it. Question 13, still from Billy Joel. While still in his teens, Billy Joel played on the demo for what Billboard #1 teenage tragedy song? Was it A, Dead Man's Curve, B, Ode to Billy Joe, C, Patches, or D, Leader of the Pack? A, Dead Man's Curve, B, Ode to Billy Joe, C, Patches, or D, Leader of the Pack? And the answer is, That's When I Fell for the Leader of the Pack. Vroom, vroom. He played piano on the demo for Leader of the Pack. Great song for the Shangri-Las. Our next question. May is Latino Authors Month. So this is a fun game about Latino authors and their books. Question 14. What 1972 coming-of-age novel by New Mexico writer Rudolfo A. Anaya is one of the most widely read Chicano novels of all time? Is it A, Bless Me Ultima, B, Heart of Aztlan, C, Tortuga, or D, Albuquerque? A, Bless Me Ultima, B, Heart of Aztlan, C, Tortuga, or D, Albuquerque? The answer is A, Bless Me Ultima. It is the not only one of the most widely read, it is the best-selling Chicano novel of all time. And question 15. This is also from famous Latino authors. Julio Cortázar, one of the founders of the Latin American boom of the 1960s and 70s, was born in blank. Is it A, France, B, Spain, C, England, or D, Belgium? A, France, B, Spain, C, England, or D, Belgium? The answer, Julio Cortázar was born in D, Belgium. He was born to Argentinian parents, and they had moved to Belgium at the beginning or before World War I. So one of the things that I did not find at the Air Force Museum, but I did find later in the day, was a bonus question. Today's bonus question is coming from our American literature game. We've got, here it is, our bonus question, sorry. Question bonus time. What Shakespeare play inspired the titles to both Kurt Vonnegut's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and William Faulkner's The Sound and the Fury? Was it A, Hamlet, B, Richard III, C, Macbeth, or D, Julius Caesar? A, Hamlet, B, Richard III, C, Macbeth, or D, Julius Caesar? The answer is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow comes from C, Macbeth. Actually, both titles come from the same speech in Macbeth. And I'm not going to do it for you because I don't have it in front of me and I can't remember it. Well, that is our game this week. Thank you so much for listening. I want to throw a big thanks to my super producer, Ross. Be sure to rate and review, subscribe, like us, tell your friends about us, take screenshots, show your family, show your dogs, and show your cats while you're giving them the questions, like I said earlier in the podcast. Appreciate it. Stay tuned. We've got some fun, exciting updates happening. We're going to be doing some really cool interactive things with the podcast moving forward. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.